Welcome to the Wealthy Woman's Podcast, a podcast for high-achieving women who are great at making money but struggle to build wealth. You'll learn how to take control of your money, increase your net worth, and make more. Ladies, it's time to create a life with more money and more freedom. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think we all want to learn more about, and that is earning more. So today, we're really going to focus on how we can earn more money. And today, we're going to be really just very specific on earning more in general. And then over the next couple of weeks, I'll break it down even further to how do you earn more in your career and how do you earn more in business. So today is just going to be the general idea of earning more. We're going to explore that. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to cover where money actually comes from. So sometimes we think that money comes from how many hours we work or things like that. And we're going to kind of look at the truth, where money actually comes from. We're also going to discuss and we're going to explore the number one thought we must get rid of in order to start earning more. And finally, I'm going to give you 4 steps you can actually begin to take so that you can start earning more, no matter, again, if it's in your career or in your business. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to look at where money actually comes from. So money comes from the value that you create. So you may be wondering, okay, that sounds good, but what is value? I know value is a term. It's a term that's kind of thrown around a lot. And so I looked it up. And so value is the usefulness of something to someone else. So in other words, you earn money by being useful to the human race, by helping to make the human race better. When you do that, you are creating value. And when you create that kind of value, you then in turn receive money for that value that you've contributed. So here are some examples. Like you can create a product, you could create services, you can provide information, right? Value is very subjective. So I might value something that you don't value. Like I may value a certain type of lotion, but you may not value it at all. I may be willing to pay $20 for something and you may be willing to pay $1,000 for that very same thing. So value is subjective. But I want you to know that the more value you give, the more value you as a human will receive. Okay. And again, this is not just in one area of your life. This can be in your business. This can also be in your career. Sometimes we see certain people in at our job, and they're like always climbing the ladder. They're always getting opportunities. But if you really look at their behaviors, and again, we're going to dive deeper into this in next week's episode around how to earn more in your career. But I do want to just mention like the people who are constantly making more, constantly getting promotions, constantly being asked to take on more responsibility, those people typically are the ones that are creating the most value in your department or at your job. Okay? So the more value you give, the more value you receive. And the value that you give, and I want you to know this is a big key right here. The value that you give may come back differently than you gave it, right? So I like to give the example of the lady standing at the perfume counter at Macy's, right? They love to give out samples of like the new perfumes. So they may give out samples to 100 different women, but not all of those women are going to then purchase the perfume, but they still gave them value. They gave them a valuable product, a sample of something that they can take home and test and wear, right? Some of them are going to use that sample of perfume and never ever purchase it. But a lot of them will. And then there are going to be some people who will purchase that perfume that never ever even received a sample of it, right? So one of the things you have to realize is that you can't be attached to how the value is going to come back to you. So how the money is going to come back to you. So if you're giving out samples of perfume at Macy's, you can't have this attitude that, oh, if I gave you a sample, then you must buy my perfume. It doesn't work that way. So you can't be in control of how the value is going to come back to you, but you have to understand that it will come back to you. It's law. It's a natural law. The more you sow, the more you will reap, right? So just keep that in mind. And money is what you receive in exchange for the value. And I kind of already alluded to that, but it's true. So when you give a lot of value, guess what you get back in return? Money. And again, it may not come back instantly. It may not come back from the exact place you gave the value, but it will come back. It's just natural law. So now let's talk about where value comes from. So value actually comes from our brains. And let's go back to our perfume example where you have scientists in the lab formulating different scents, right? And I'm sure they came up with a lot of scents that just didn't smell all that great, but they used their brains, they used their talents, they used their gifts to reformulate and come up with a scent that really smelled good and that they could take to market and sell. So value comes from our brains, right? If we think of the perfume as value, like some ladies love to wear perfume, they love to smell good. They're willing to pay $100 or more for a bottle of really nice smelling perfume, right? So that is valuable to them. It is useful to them. So they're willing to exchange money to receive the perfume. And so that is value, and value comes from your brain. And we create value by thinking, right? We think with our brain, so value comes from our brains. Not only do we think, we solve problems, right? With our brains, we can solve problems for people. That's valuable. Other things that we can do that are valuable is we can save people time, we can save people money, we can make life easier for others, we can take away pain, we can add pleasure to someone's life. We can share our knowledge, we can share our talents, we can entertain. There are so many things we can do that will provide value to someone else, right? Helping people get what they want is super valuable. And how do we create the value? Again, we create that by thinking. We create that by being creative and coming up with solutions and things like that. That is value, and people pay for value. So if value comes from our brains and money comes from value, then money comes from our brains. Yes, it totally does. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. If value comes from our brains and money comes from the value we create, then money comes from our brains. So if money comes from our brain, then there is an unlimited amount of money that we as human beings can actually create. And that brings me to point number 2, which is the number one thought that we must get rid of in order to earn more money. And here's that thought. The thought that there is a limited amount of money that you can earn based on any number of things, right? Based on your education level, based on your profession, based on the number of hours that you work in a week, based on your gender, or based on your race, right? None of those things determine how much money you can make. You are not limited based on those things. The only thing that limits how much money you can make is, first of all, you're thinking about it, right? The way you think about that. If you think there's a limited amount of money that you can make, of course, you're going to make that true for you, right? But the other thing that limits it is your willingness to create and contribute value to the world. I grew up thinking that there was a very limited amount of money in the world. Like there was just this one pie. And I mentioned this on the last episode, but I did. I thought there was just this one pie of money and we all were just trying to get our fair share. We were just trying to get a slice of it, but there was just this limited amount. But the truth is, that's not true. There isn't just one pie. We all get our own pie and we get to make it as big as we want. You get to make your pie as big as you want it to be. And not only that, you can make more pies if you want to, right? You can have one pie and then say, you know what, I want another one. And you can make that one as big as you want to make it. And here's another thing that I think is so amazing to know, right? That if you don't use your pie, then it just sits there unused. It's not like I can come and take your pie or that someone else can come and take my pie. When you have a pie that goes unused, it just sits there and no one can take advantage of it. And so when you understand that point, I think you can also start to realize that when you make more money or when someone else begins to make more money, you're not taking it away from anyone else. It's impossible for you to take it away from someone else. If you're showing up in the world using your God-given gifts and talents and really just being a valuable person and giving value to the world, that is yours for the taking. No one else can take your value. Now, when I say no one else can take it, I'm not saying that, someone can't come and be shady and steal from you. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is that your value that you create is only yours to give, and therefore the money that you receive in return for that value is only yours to receive. No one else can receive it in lieu of you. And so when we understand that, then we can not even worry about what someone else is doing or how much money someone else is making, right? We can be happy for people. We can let go of jealousy and animosity when we see someone else thriving and doing really well. We can literally just think oh, they're just living their life. They're just contributing lots of value. They're showing up and they're creating value. They're using their talents, they're using their gifts, and they're making the world a better place. And in return, they are receiving money for all of that, right? And you get to do the same thing. You can do the exact same thing. So my family and I are huge, huge Marvel fans. We love a good action-packed Marvel movie. And so whenever I explain this concept, I love to bring up Thor. Thor is a character who has this superpower that allows him to pick up a hammer. This is huge, huge hammer. It's so heavy, but no one else in the world can pick it up except for him. And so that's kind of what I want you to think about. Thor's hammer, he's the only one that can pick up his hammer. And for you, you're the only one that can consume the pie that was given to you, right? The money that is escrowed for you, it's only for you, and it's not available for anyone else. And I just want to bring home the point that, whenever you see someone doing well, thriving, just know that they are showing up. They are contributing. They are being valuable. They are sowing and reaping. They are sowing and reaping. And sometimes we see people when they're reaping, but you didn't see them when they were doing all the sowing, right? When they were learning all the things and getting educated and trying and failing and falling flat on their face, then getting back up and trying again and still contributing value no matter what, right? That was the sowing phase. But sometimes we witness people when they're reaping the rewards and we think, oh my God, how is that happening for them? It's not happening for me. But just remember the concept of sowing and reaping. They've been given value, and you can't be attached to how the value is coming back. So this person could have been just doing things all these years, and then finally the harvest came and they started to reap. And you have to believe and know that the same is true for you. The same will happen for you. You just show up, give value, contribute it to the world. All of us are valuable. All of us have gifts and talents. And I'm going to share with you in a few minutes how you can really start to recognize those and how you can start to really show up as that valuable person that God created you to be. So there's no need to ever look at someone else and envy them or be jealous or anything like that, because what they have, you can have too, right? Believe me on that one. So now let's go to the third point around how to actually earn more, right? And so the way you earn more is not by going back and getting more education, although sometimes that can be a way to do it, especially if you're going to gain more knowledge that will allow you to show up and give more value to the world that you weren't able to give prior to getting that education. So many people go back to school and they get all of these degrees and they end up making the same amount of money because the degree didn't cause them to show up and create more value in the world. It was just like they just received a lot of extra education, but it didn't result in them contributing more value to the world. An example of this would be, let's say someone goes to medical school, right? Prior to medical school, they didn't have any of the knowledge needed to help people heal or to save lives, right? But after medical school, now they have all of this knowledge. They have all of these skills that they can contribute to the world and actually make the world a better place, save lives, maybe treat or cure cancer or heart disease and all these things. So they went back to school and got some really amazing education that allowed them to become more valuable, not in the sense of they're better than anyone, but the knowledge that they have, they can apply it and help people live a different life, right? So let me just be really clear. When I say when you're being more valuable, it's not your human value. It's your business value. It's your gifts and talents, right? I really want to be clear on that because all of us are 100% valuable, worthy, good enough. We're all equal when it comes to that. We're all equally valuable, but some of us choose to use our God-given gifts and talents and some of us don't. And so when we choose to do that, then we are able to contribute that value to the world, and in return, the world gives us money back. Okay. And then some of us have lots of gifts and talents. I believe all of us do, but we choose not to share them. We choose not to contribute them. We choose not to explore them. So we don't give that value to the world. So the money that we receive or the money that we have is not as much as someone who is choosing to show up and give value, contribute value to the world. Just wanted to make that really, really clear. We are all equally valuable as human beings. God created all of us in his image. We are 100% worthy. We are 100% adequate. We are 100% good enough just the way we are. But we then get to decide how we're going to show up in the world. If we're going to get over our fears and get over our doubts and contribute value and show up and be of service to our fellow humans. If we are not willing to do that, then the monetary value we receive will be limited. Okay, so now let's get back to talking about how to earn more. I know I got off on a little tangent, but I needed to be clear that your education level, how much money you make, what your profession is, none of that makes you a more valuable human being. That's just a fact, but it does allow you to create more value and have more money because you're creating value and contributing value at a higher level. Okay, so how to earn more money. You need to access your brain to create value and to create money. Money creation is based on the value we create. We all have value inside of us, right? We all have something inside of us that we can contribute and give to the world and then receive money for because we contributed, because we made the world a better place, because we were willing to get over our doubts and fears and worries and say, I am going to be of service to you. And if you have any doubts about that, if you have any doubts about your worthiness, if you have any doubts about your gifts and talents, listen, the Wealthy Woman's Academy, I will help you inside the Wealthy Woman's Academy figure that out because I truly believe that we all have something. We all can be even more valuable than we are right now. We all can. we can. Okay. And so if you have questions about that, if this sounds like something you want to explore, something you want to work on, you are invited to join me inside the Wealthy Women's Academy, where I will help you to figure it out and really get you moving in the right direction. Because like I said, I believe all of us can be earning more no matter where we are right now. Okay. So when we see people with large amounts of money, it just simply means that they contributed a large amount of value, right? And they followed the 4 steps I'm about to give you. So here are the 4 steps that you can use to actually start to earn more. Number 1 is to access your brain, right? Think about what your gifts and talents are. What are your passions? What are you really good at? What do people constantly ask for your help on or your help with? For me, it was money. People were always calling me, asking me about money. Once they found out that I, paid off all this debt and I built a multiple 6-figure net worth, they were just like, oh, can you help me? And the only reason why they even knew to ask is because I was willing to tell my story and show up and contribute and tell people it was possible for them. And so for me, it became like my passion. Once I figured out, oh my gosh, if I could do this, anybody can, then that became my passion. So I learned more about it. I went and became a certified life coach so that I can combine the mindset piece to the money strategy. And so that is what you can do too. You can just ask yourself, what am I good at? What am I talented at? What are people constantly asking me to do? It can be anything. It can be to provide a service. It could be to provide products or to make products. It can be anything, right? Just allow yourself to just explore and to think and to be creative and to not shut ideas down that may come to you, right? Just be open to it all. And so once you access your brain, then be willing to actually create the value, right? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples within different professions on how you can do that. So you can create value. And then number 3 is contribute the value. So sometimes people create value, they create products, they create services, but they never offer it. They never contribute it to the world. They never give people the opportunity to benefit from it. So you've got to be willing to also contribute the value. And number 4, you have to be willing to receive money in exchange. A lot of us have issues with receiving money, right? We feel like we're being greedy or that we don't deserve it or that we're taking money away from someone else. And that is simply not true. So the 4 steps to being able to earn more, and this can be in your career, this can be in your business, it can be in a side hustle, it can be in anything. You have to access your brain, right? Think outside the box, solve some problems. Explore to see what your talents are and what your gifts are. What are people constantly asking you to help them with? And then be willing to create the value, right? Once I knew that, okay, I want to be a money coach, then I had to be willing to create ways that people can work with me. I had to create ways that I can help people. So I had to create the value. And right now, this podcast is me creating value, and I'm helping you with your money. And then I'm also being willing to contribute the value, right? By offering you to join the Wealthy Women's Academy. And then number 4, you have to be willing to receive the money in exchange, right? And knowing that it truly is an exchange. You're not taking money from anyone. It's an exchange of value. You're helping someone else get what they want, and in return, they pay for it. It's an exchange. It's a fair, valuable exchange. So real quick, I'm just going to do an example of a hairstylist, right? Let's say someone is a hairstylist and they're making a certain amount of money and they're like, you know what? I really want to earn more, but I'm already working 40 hours a week. I really don't have any other time. So what they should do is then sit down and really access their brain and say, okay, how can I create more money? How can I earn more money? What am I good at? What can I do to actually bring more money in? And they may come up with an idea of, oh, I can actually make wigs. I'm really good at making wigs. And so I can sell them online, right? I can make wigs and sell them online. So that's their idea. Maybe they've made wigs in the past. Maybe they're really good at it. And this can be another way that they provide value to people. And so they have to be willing to then sit down and create the wigs, because having the idea is one thing, but you have to execute on it if you really want to earn more with using that idea. So they would create the wigs, right? And then they would have to, number 3, contribute the value. So they would have to talk about it. They would have to educate people on how to use the wigs. They would have to advertise it. They would have to tell people how liberating it is to wear a wig, and so that they can have their hair protected and not have to worry about doing their hair every day, right? They would have to contribute the value to the world, be willing to contribute it. And then they would need to finally, number 4, be willing to receive money in return for the wigs. Another example would be someone who's just an expert of any kind. Let's just say you know someone who is really good at relationships. They're really good at helping people have a better relationship. And so they would access their brain and say, okay, how can I really help people? And their idea may be, oh my gosh, I can write a book, right? So that's their idea. And then they can say, okay, I'm going to actually act on this idea. And that would be actually writing the book, right? Sitting down, learning how to write the book. That's the second part of creating the value. And then the third part will be, okay, I have this book now. Now I'm going to contribute it. I'm going to find a way to get it out to the world. And then I'm going to be willing to receive. I'm not just going to give the book away for free. I'm going to be willing to receive money in exchange for the book. Okay. So those are just 2 examples of people actually being willing to get creative, come up with ideas, contribute those ideas and that value to the world, and then in exchange receive money for it. That is how you earn money, right? And then I'm going to give you one more example, because I want to talk to you about how you could do this if you're in a career and maybe you don't want to start a business. You could do this in your career by thinking to yourself, okay, I'm in this current role and I want to be more valuable, right? So let me access my brain. What can I do to make my boss's job easier? What can I do to make the company's bottom line even more plentiful? Like, what can I do? You just start thinking, like, how can I save us time? How can I save us money? What can I do? How can I bring us in more money? Anything along those lines. And then once you have those ideas, then you actually start acting on them, right? You act on them. Maybe you come up with a plan. Then you talk to your manager about it. And then you say, okay, I want to roll this out. And then what you do is, especially if you're going over and beyond your current job title, when it's time to sit down and talk about a raise, that is when you bring that up. That is when you tell your manager, hey, look at this value I created. Look at how much money I saved the company. Look at how much time I saved the company. Look at how much I made the company. And with that, I would like to see this level of a raise this year, right? Or you can use that same approach, but then instead of asking for a raise, you can ask for a promotion. Either way, right? So I wanted to give you an idea of how you can actually do this in a career. But next week, we're going to go even deeper to talk about how you can earn more in your career. So I hope this podcast episode was really helpful for you. I hope that you are excited and ready to start earning more and contributing more value to the world so that you can start bringing in more money. So let's just do a quick recap. We talked today about where money comes from. It comes from value, right? It comes from the value that you create and contribute to the world. We talked about the number 1 thought that you must get rid of if you want to earn more, and that is the fact that so many people think that money is limited, and we really do need to get rid of that thinking. And then finally, we talked about how to earn more. And we went through the 4-step process, which is 1, access your brain. Number 2, create value. Number 3, contribute value. And number 4, receive money in exchange. Be willing and open to receiving money in exchange. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got a lot out of it, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, before you go, if you're ready to create a life with more money and more freedom, then you're invited to join the Wealthy Woman's Academy. my signature coaching program where you'll learn how to take control of your money and build wealth without sacrificing your lifestyle. To get started, head on over to JermaineFoley.com. That's Jermaine with a G, Foley.com. See you there.